Welcome to 18th Century Cooking. I'm your host, John Townsend. We're in the wilderness. We're on the frontier. We don't normally think about dessert, do we? But we have amazing resources that are available to us, especially this time of year. Black raspberries. These things are wonderful, and they make a dessert that fits the 18th century perfectly. Thanks for joining us today as we savor the flavors and the aromas of the 18th century. So imagine you're in a frontier situation. Maybe you are a long hunter and you've been out hunting for months, or you're a traveler traveling in the backcountry, which is seemingly happening fairly often. But one of the problems is that the provisions that you have run out long ago. And it seems like that happens so many times in these journals. And they're surviving upon the land and eating generally meat, things that they've hunted, and they're killing and eating immediately. And they've had that over and over and over again. They are so tired of eating meat, and they are craving anything. They're craving bread or craving something sweet. So wild fruit was written about over and over in the journals of Europeans that are traveling in the backcountry and writing back to the folks in Europe. And they're talking about the plentiful, the abundance of wild fruit that is available in North America. And basically it goes from season to season. You know, one berry or one kind of fruit is ripe, and then that one's gone and another one is available. So they are just astounded by the amount of fruit that's just available, just picked on the trees. It's not cultivated, it's just wild anywhere you're at, and it's available in most parts of North America. It was amazing to them that this resource was available. There's a lot of research about Native Americans also using wild fruits, wild berries and nuts as a great part of their diet. Here in 18th century North America. The berries specifically were something that was eaten fresh. They were also dried and saved for other parts of the year, along with other items. Berries like this dried might even be put into pemmican for a long-term storage so that they would be able to access this food months or even years into the future. And so many times we hear about in situations where the Native American men would go out hunting and the women and children would stay behind, and they would collect these wild fruits and nuts that were available just all around them. So here we are on the frontier. We've gathered our berries, and it's time now to fix them into something just a little special. The difficulty is most recipes in 18th century cookbooks, well, they just don't fit this setting, do they? They're making something like a jelly or a jam. They're making a raspberry tart, and we want something simple and quick and easy to make. And William Byrd's journal from the early 18th century describes exactly what we want. He says, "I ate raspberries with milk." And that seems just like the perfect kind of balance, doesn't it? Something very, very simple, but it adds to this berry recipe. So that's what we're going to be making today. So the finishing touch on this, it's super simple, right? But a little bit of sugar sprinkled up on top. Now, this isn't just your regular sugar. This is maple sugar, and in a frontier setting like this, maple sugar is the most available sugar to us because it's made right here on the frontier. Made by Native Americans, made by other folks out on the frontier from the trees, from the resources that we have right around us. It's the least expensive, and it's one of those things that was traded back into like trading posts, like Fort Wayne, where maple sugar is part of their inventory. The things that they traded, they had trade goods and they traded for maple sugar that went back east. So often when we think about the frontier, we don't think about dessert, do we? And boy, if this isn't dessert, nothing is. There's nothing quite like fresh black raspberries with milk and a little bit of sugar. It's got all these wonderful wild flavors that come in there, and it's a burst of flavor that we aren't normally used to, especially in we're thinking about, plain cooking, on the frontier, simple cooking. But no, this is rich food and a wonderful dessert for the time period. I love this recipe because it's not a recipe that's out of a cookbook per se, but it's actually right out of the readings from the 18th century. Somebody wrote about the dish they ate that day, and we get to try it out. Exactly the same thing they had in 1720. If you're interested in another wonderful dessert recipe right from the 18th century, try out this episode.